These 25 games on Switch 2 absolutely deserved better, and it is time someone said it out loud. Opening up at number 1, Split Fiction is without question one of the best cooperative games ever made, and the fact that it underperformed on Switch 2 is genuinely baffling. Developed by Hazelight Studios, the game follows two writers trapped inside their own fictional stories, forcing them to cooperate across wildly different genre worlds, ranging from sci-fi to fantasy. Every chapter introduces fresh mechanics, creative environments, and surprisingly strong writing for a co-op game. The free Friend Pass means only one person needs to buy it. On Switch 2, it plays best on a TV, and once you get it there, the experience is every bit as polished as it is on any other platform. Right into number 2, Yakuza 0 Director's Cut arrived on Switch 2 as what many considered the single greatest entry point into one of gaming's most beloved series, and it still failed to capture the audience it deserved. Set during Japan's bubble economy era of the 1980s, you follow young Kiryu and Majima as their paths through the criminal underworld collide over a seemingly small piece of land in Kamurocho. The Director's Cut adds new content to an already enormous game, and the Switch 2 version runs the whole package cleanly. Missing this one is genuinely hard to justify. Moving on to number 3, Street Fighter VI Year 1 2 Fighters Edition brought one of the best fighting games of the modern era to the Switch 2, with very few compromises. The World Tour mode, drive system, and enormous roster of characters all arrived intact, and the gyro control support made it a genuinely exciting showcase for the hardware. Despite arriving at launch and receiving strong reviews, its sales came in below what Capcom had hoped. For fighting game fans on Nintendo hardware, this is still the definitive version of one of the genre's greatest recent releases. Number 4, Hitman World of Assassination Signature Edition collected the entire modern Hitman trilogy into one massive package on Switch 2, and most people simply walked past it. Agent 47's 3-game stealth sandbox adventure represents some of the most creative mission design in gaming history, with enormous levels packed with disguises, targets, and emergent chaos at every turn. The Signature Edition includes all expansions and bonus content, making it one of the best value propositions on the platform. The frame rate issues at launch were real, but patches improved the situation significantly. At number 5, Civilization VII Switch 2 Edition represented an ambitious push to bring the full PC strategy experience to handheld form, and mouse support on the Switch 2 made it more viable than any Civ port before it. The base game had already divided opinions on PC due to its controversial age system redesign, and that baggage likely held back sales on Nintendo hardware too. But as a strategy experience you can play portably with mouse controls, it remains unlike anything else available on the platform. The updates have addressed many of the original criticisms, and it plays much better today than at launch. Stepping into number 6, Bravely Default Flying Fairy HD Remaster is a love letter to classic JRPG design that arrived on Switch 2 as one of the finest turn-based adventures available on the platform, and a staggering number of players overlooked it entirely. The Brave and Default combat system, which lets you gamble turns for burst action or bank them defensively, remains one of the most inventive combat mechanics in the genre. The HD visuals give the game a fresh coat of paint without erasing the charm of the original. For any fan of classic RPGs, this one is essential. Coming to number 7, Star Wars Outlaws on Switch 2 brought the galaxy far, far away to Nintendo hardware for the first time in years, offering an open-world scoundrel adventure starring Kay Vess across multiple iconic planets. The game improved significantly through post-launch updates on other platforms before its Switch 2 arrival, meaning this version benefited from months of polish. Exploration, stealth, speeder bike traversal, and faction reputation mechanics all combine into a genuinely enjoyable package that flew under the radar on a platform where Star Wars has historically done well. Number 8, Hogwarts Legacy made its Switch 2 debut as one of the biggest open-world games to land on the platform in its launch window. The full Wizarding World experience, complete with spellcasting, exploration, and a compelling story set a century before the Harry Potter books, arrived with strong technical performance and gyro support. Despite its enormous success on other platforms, the Switch 2 version sold modestly. Given how well The Witcher 3 fared on the original Switch, this one had every reason to replicate that success and simply did not. At number 9, Kunitsu Gami Path of the Goddess is one of the most creatively original games Capcom has released in years, blending action combat with real-time strategy and tower defense elements across a visually stunning feudal Japan setting. You guide a shrine maiden through possessed villages while building defenses and cutting down yokai in real time, and the loop is deeply satisfying. Despite being critically praised wherever it landed, it quietly slipped on Switch 2 with almost no fanfare and even less commercial traction. A genuine hidden gem that more people absolutely need to find. Number 10, Survival Kids, launched alongside the Switch 2 as one of Konami's big bets on the platform, and ended up becoming a cautionary tale about how even strong launch window placement cannot guarantee an audience. The survival adventure game tasks you with escaping a deserted island, using resource gathering, crafting, and exploration while managing your character's needs. The tone is lighter than most survival games, making it accessible, but it lacked the marketing muscle to break through. It remains one of the more charming and underplayed experiences from the Switch 2 launch period. Arriving at number 11, Suikoden 1 and 2 HD Remaster Switch 2 Edition gave fans of classic JRPGs two of the most beloved entries in the genre, fully remastered with HD visuals and quality of life improvements across both titles. Suikoden 1 and its sequel are widely regarded as masterclasses in political storytelling and ensemble cast writing, with over 100 recruitable characters across both games. The Switch 2 is an ideal platform for long, narrative-rich RPGs you can play in bursts, making this collection a natural fit that sold far below its potential. Coming in at number 12, No Man's Sky Switch 2 Edition is arguably the greatest turnaround story in gaming history, and somehow it still could not find its audience on Nintendo's hardware. The fully featured version of Hello Games' space exploration sandbox includes years of free updates, base building, multiplayer, story missions, and an almost incomprehensible amount of content for the price. The Switch 2 edition runs the whole package with solid performance and is the most complete portable version of the game ever released. Overlooking this one on Switch 2 is hard to understand. Number 13, Sonic X Shadow Generations packaged two of the most acclaimed modern Sonic experiences into a single release and arrived on Switch 2 with surprisingly little commercial traction compared to its reception on other platforms. The Sonic Generations remake holds up beautifully, and Shadow Generations adds a substantial new campaign that stands as one of the best Sonic adventures in decades. The variety across both games keeps the experience fresh throughout, and the Switch 2 version handles both halves with clean performance. A strong and genuinely fun package that deserved far more attention. At number 14, Wild Hearts S brought a technically impressive and mechanically inventive monster hunting experience to the Switch 2, and it landed with almost no noise, despite being a polished and ambitious game. The Karakuri construction system, which lets you build contraptions mid-hunt to trap and fight enormous nature-fused beasts, sets it apart from every other game in the genre. The cooperative hunting loop is deeply satisfying, and the visual world design is stunning. Switch U players who enjoy Monster Hunter absolutely owe it to themselves to give this one a proper chance. Number 15, Rune Factory Guardians of Azuma builds on one of Nintendo Gaming's most beloved farming and life sim RPG formulas with a vibrant new setting, expanded combat, and a cast of memorable characters. The game blends daily farming rhythm, dungeon exploration, and relationship building in a way that creates one of the most deeply comfortable gaming loops available on the platform. Despite its strong fanbase and positive reception, sales on Switch 2 came in modestly. For players who want a rich single-player life sim with meaningful RPG depth, this one delivers generously. Stepping into number 16, Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3 Plus 4 was one of the few day-and-date third-party launches on Switch 2, and somehow still failed to generate the numbers it deserved. Both classic games are faithfully recreated with modernized visuals while preserving the level layouts, iconic soundtracks, and tight skating mechanics that made them legendary. The Switch 2 version supports gyro controls that added genuinely fresh feel to tricks and grinds in handheld mode. As a portable skateboarding experience with 2 full classic games inside, it should have been an easy sell. At number 17, Fast Fusion represents one of the most competent and polished anti-gravity racers released in years, filling the F-Zero-shaped hole in the Switch 2 library with real confidence. The game features a strong roster of craft types, diverse track designs, and a sense of speed that genuinely rivals the classics of the genre. Online multiplayer, track editors, and a well-structured career mode round out a package that punches well above its price point. It sits in a genre with almost no competition on the platform, yet it failed to build the audience that its quality clearly warranted. Number 18, Romancing Saga 2: Revenge of the Seven, is one of the most unique and ambitious JRPGs available on Switch 2, featuring a multi-generational story structure where your empire and its rulers evolve over centuries of conflict. The Saga series has always operated differently from mainstream RPGs, prioritizing player agency and non-linear structure over guided storytelling, and this remake makes that system more accessible than ever. The visuals are gorgeous and the combat is inventive. Despite critical appreciation across the board, it remained one of the most overlooked releases in a very competitive JRPG window. Coming to number 19, Nobunaga's Ambition Awakening Complete Edition brought one of the most respected grand strategy series in Japanese gaming history to the Switch 2 in its most content-complete form. The depth of historical simulation, political maneuvering, and military campaign design is staggering, offering hundreds of hours of strategic engagement for players willing to invest the time to learn its systems. The Switch 2's touchscreen and mouse-style controls make it one of the most intuitive ways to play a complex strategy game on the go. Its low profile among Western audiences was a genuine loss. At number 20, Shadow Labyrinth Switch Edition takes Pac-Man into a dark action RPG direction that feels genuinely bold and creative, offering one of the more unexpected reinventions of a classic arcade franchise in years. The gameplay blends side-scrolling exploration with combat, puzzle solving, and the use of a Pac-Man companion ability in ways that feel surprisingly cohesive. The art direction is striking, and the tone is darker than anything the franchise has attempted before. For players open to fresh takes on classic IP, this one deserved to find a much larger audience than it ultimately did. Number 21, Lorelei and the Laser Eyes Nintendo Switch 2 Edition is one of the most intellectually demanding and atmospherically rich puzzle games released in years, and the Switch 2 version delivers it in excellent portable form. The surreal hotel setting, cryptic ciphers, and layered mystery structure reward patient players with an experience that feels unlike anything else in the genre. The monochromatic visual style is striking and immediately establishes a mood that the game sustains throughout its runtime. It adds to a lot of players, and most players declined the invitation. That is their loss. At number 22, Deltarune finally arrived on Switch 2 as the long-awaited follow-up to Undertale. And despite the enormous goodwill the original built across a decade of devoted fans, the commercial performance on Nintendo hardware came in far below what the series deserved. Chapters 1 and 2 set the foundation, with Toby Fox's signature mix of bullet hell combat, emotionally layered writing, and fourth-wall bending humor, and the subsequent chapters expanded the experience significantly. The Switch 2 is arguably the perfect home for this kind of intimate narrative RPG adventure. Number 23, Puyo Puyo Tetris 2S represents the gold standard of puzzle game crossover design, and arrived on Switch 2 with a wealth of modes, characters, and competitive options that make it one of the deepest puzzle game packages available on the platform. The fusion of Puyo Puyo's chain combo mechanics with Tetris's structural precision creates a genuinely unique competitive puzzle experience that rewards hundreds of hours of practice. Despite being one of the best two-player couch gaming options on Switch 2, it was completely overshadowed by bigger releases around it. Stepping into number 24, No Sleep for Kaname Date from AI The Somnium Files is a narrative adventure with one of the sharpest and most emotionally rewarding stories in the visual novel and detective game genre. The sequel expands on the original with a dual protagonist structure and a dreamscape investigation mechanic that creates puzzles unlike anything else in the genre. Kotaro Uchikoshi's writing is consistently sharp and full of unexpected turns, and the Switch 2 version handles the experience cleanly, For fans of narrative adventures, this is an absolute must that far too few Switch 2 owners have actually played. Closing at number 25, Constance wraps up this list as one of 2026's finest hand-drawn Metroidvania experiences, a game that impressed PC players deeply and then arrived on Switch 2 with almost no commercial fanfare whatsoever. You play as artist Constance, navigating a decaying inner world shaped by her own mental health, wielding a brush for both combat and platforming in a world that shifts and changes as she does. The boss fights are demanding, the art direction is gorgeous, and the narrative has genuine emotional resonance. A quiet masterpiece that the Switch 2 library is richer for having, even if most players have not found it yet.